p.m. And we'll call this meeting to order. And so the record will show that, at least at the moment, 5 of us are present. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the January 21st, 2021 regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make that motion that we approve the minutes of January 21st,
And
2021.
Steve has the motion. Is there a second?
Rob Mann, I'll second it.
Thanks, Rob. Any changes to those minutes? Any changes? All right, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone oppose? Anyone abstain?
I will abstain actually, because I wasn't at the meeting.
All right, so now that means this passes 4-0 with one abstention. 4-0 with one abstention. Then we'll move on to correspondence. Finance Director's report, tipping expenses, fiscal year 19 to 21. Is there any other correspondence that's come before us that is not captured here in the agenda and that I'm forgetting about? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Is there any citizens' comments at this time? Any citizen have a comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Selectmen's update. First Selectman, Amy Sainage, and there's Amy.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so the Board of Selectmen have been busy with budget workshops. We've completed all the departments as of today. Next week, beginning on Tuesday, we'll be starting with our final reviews. So Tuesday, we're meeting 2 to 5 p.m. It will be via Zoom. Thursday, we'll be meeting 5 to 8 p.m., possibly longer, but those are just general times. And then potentially Saturday, we'll finalize everything between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. potentially. Again, just depending on how long it takes us to go through everything again. You know, I think a lot of the departments came in pretty flat. We have a very ambitious agenda for next year for our Public Works Department. You'll be seeing that soon. It will include potentially paving all of Quadic Road. It's a road that's we receive many complaints on. It's definitely one of the worst roads in town. It's nearly 3 miles of road. It's a big project, but Rich believes that we can get it done next year. Additionally, there'll be some capital expenses that are just must-haves. So what we would like to do is invite the Board of Finance to find a night, an evening to meet at the town garage to really sit down and talk to Rich about his needs this year, to really get a feel for what he's done at the town garage and the challenges that he's facing. So I'm hoping to get a few dates together, and hopefully as many members of the Board of Finance as possible could come and just sit down and talk to him and see what his goals and his visions are for the town. And to really get a feel for what the needs are and what they've been working with. I know a couple of weeks ago, as the storms were hitting us, they had 3 trucks that went down, including their backup truck that they didn't have. So thankfully we have our mechanic, Joe Tasic, who does wonders. He actually he does very magical things and gets things back up and running pretty fast. And he's very creative and he's very talented. So, but it was very stressful about a week and a half ago when 3 of the trucks were broke down. So that's what's going on there. Of course, coming up this Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, February 24th, we have our town meeting. It will be, you know, we're trying to tackle combining the budgets into one. I'm hoping that all of the Board of Finance will come and participate, and as many members of the public as possible. We want everybody's voice to be heard. It will be hybrid as the meeting in November was, so residents will be able to attend live at the auditorium at the school as well as Zoom in. So it'll be handled in the same manner. And that's pretty much what's going on in town right now.
Thanks, Amy. Any questions for the first selectman? Go
I
ahead.
have a
Rhonda.
question. Amy, when is that meeting scheduled? Is it already scheduled?
For
The town meeting that you were just,
it's this coming Wednesday, the 24th, 7 PM. And
and
we'll be promoting it heavily in the next few days on the town's website and the Facebook page, and just really trying to get the community to come out for it.
are you going to send a link to us, to all the like board members?
Oh,
or-
yeah, I absolutely can.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank
that'll
you.
be much easier.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Go ahead, Steve.
Amy, I just wondered on the proposed meeting with Rich, I assume that'll be a public meeting and we'll do it via Zoom so the town can participate as well.
Oh, true. That's probably has to happen, right, Aaron?
Right.
If it was the whole entire board?
Well, I know if four members of the Board of Finance gather together, that constitutes a quorum.
Okay. Maybe we can do 3 and 3?
Well, why not?
I
let
mean,
the
we could,
town-
we could open it up to the public. I just don't know how we can Zoom in that type of a meeting where we'll be walking around the garage.
If you do 3 and 3, you're really
I know.
bypassing, the law. I wouldn't suggest that.
That's and Rhonda, I'll call you in a second. The representative from the Connecticut Freedom of Information, he said, technically, if two members of the Board of Finance are discussing a matter that would in the future come before the Board of Finance,
Okay,
if they're discussing that matter without the public being able to hear what they're talking about, then technically that's not in compliance with freedom of information. If those two members of the board are talking about what happened at a meeting last night, he said that's fine because that's done. If they're talking about what to have on a future agenda, no problem. It's if they're talking about something that's dollars and cents that will come before the Board of Finance
okay.
in the future, that's where he said you're treading on thin ice at a moment like that.
How about if we did something like a video where Rich just shared his thoughts and that became a public thing that we shared with the Board of Finance when he does his presentation? Is that something that might work?
This is Rob. Amy, why not just open it up to the public and not have a Zoom? People
Well,
can show up at the town hall. It's outside. It's a big
Yeah.
facility. I mean, unless others have an objection, that might work.
I think it's in the town garage, not the town hall.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I meant town garage.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
And,
Thank you,
and,
Steve.
keep in mind, if we go there and Rich shows us what are his concerns and we don't comment on them, then we are not violating freedom of information. That freedom of information officer said it's when Board of Finance members are talking with each other about dollars and cents items that will come before the board at some point. Just like we've taken tours of the school building
Mhm.
and they say, here are the needs, here are the concerns, and we just keep quiet, then I think we're okay. Rhonda, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, I mean, that sounds good, Aaron, but I was just going to suggest even just having your phone on Zoom and, you can show it if you're not bouncing around all the place, you can have that meeting still. And then if there is any talking, we can be in that one room and they could, still hear us on Zoom.
Right.
That's all. I mean, it'll be kind of dizzying for probably the people, but
I know in the past when the Board of Finance has taken tours of the school building, that has been posted as a special meeting. And
Okay.
then it's concluded that no business took place at that special meeting, but that special meeting was posted.
Okay,
And it was open to the public, so public people came.
okay.
So I think as long as members of the Board of Finance don't discuss these items amongst each other on that tour, then we're not basically violating what this representative from Freedom of Information suggested was inconsistent with FOI.
Yep. No,
But
absolutely.
Why not make it a meeting and let people participate?
Right.
What's
Yeah,
the-
absolutely. I think it would be great to have it open to the public as well. Rich has done a tremendous job there at the garage. I mean, the change from when I took office to what it looks like now is just, it's almost unrecognizable. He's really, him and his team, not just Rich, his team, they've worked together. They have a new break room. They've just done a lot of stuff in-house and they really take pride in that building. But there's a long way to go. So.
Aaron, if I could,
Go ahead, Rob.
just to back up for Rhonda, she was not here at the last meeting. Rhonda, to clarify, the meeting on the 24th is not only a meeting, but it's a vote. It's to vote on several items. I know one of which is the combined budget. Amy, I think the other is we have to loop back on the school roof, and there might be a third around the
There's
fire.
Two more. Yep,
Yep, okay, got it. Why don't
firefighters
you-
abatement program, we want to increase to the state maximum, which is $1,500.
For this year.
And
yep.
yep, for this year. And then additionally, we want to create a new ordinance that will prevent us having to loop back like we're doing right now for the school roof project, because we didn't give enough time last year between when the legal notice was published for the referendum and when we actually had the referendum. So we have a new ordinance to vote on that will give us flexibility to have shorter period of time between legal notice and actual referendum.
Which I think is 30 down to 21 days. if I'm
21.
correct.
Yeah, I just
So
read
Rhonda
the
is
minutes.
super-
I think it was in there. So, yeah.
The honest truth is that 30 days at this point, it feels like an age ago since we discussed and published the legal notice. I think so many people have potentially forgotten that there's even a town meeting coming up. And that's, yeah, seems ineffective to me, but.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I have one more question because I wasn't at the meeting last time, but at the meeting that prior to that, there was a deficit still for COVID. Are you still working with that, or has that changed at all?
Well, what we actually, you mean as far as vaccinations?
No, I mean, as far as finances, I was just looking at my notes, and last time you had spent 36,000 and you had recouped 15, I guess, of that. And then, the school had a deficit as well. I was just wanted to find out if anything's changed in that area.
Yeah, we did receive some it was federal funding, right, Orla?
It's actually through the state.
Oh, through the state, through the CARES, was that through CARES?
Yes, yes. correct.
Okay, we did receive funding. We're in good standing at this point, as far as COVID expenses, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the first selectman? And welcome, Jim. Dottie, if you could make note in the minutes for this meeting that Jim was able to join us at, it was like 7:09 or 7:10, somewhere in that range. Welcome, Jim.
Yeah, I apologize. I've been trying to get on and we just couldn't link up here. So finally got on board here.
Glad you could join us.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to school district update. Superintendent of Schools, Melinda Smith. Welcome, Melinda. Looks like, yeah, there you go.
Good evening, everybody. I always start with an enrollment report. We currently have at Thompson Public Schools 947 students. That's a reduction of 1 student from my last report. There are 406 students at Mary R. Fisher. There are 300 students enrolled at Thompson Middle School and 241 at Turtle Out Memorial High School. We have currently 199 of those students distant learning at home. We have brought back almost 90 students back into the district for on-site learning. And then in addition to that, there are 52 homeschool students that are not participating in the district's distant learning curriculum. As far as COVID money that Amy was just talking about, the districts received 3 buckets of funding. The first was ESSER-1, the second was CARES money. Both of those buckets have been completely drawn down. Bob did all the reports for that, and we drew down all those expenses. And then he also submitted some expenses to Orla. so that she could apply for FEMA reimbursement. We don't get 100% of that money back, but every little bit helps. The third bucket of money is ESSER 2, which the district has an allocation of $589,000. That particular bucket of money, had a webinar last week with the state. That money cannot plug a BOE budget. That money is to close learning gaps. And so the state is requiring us to do a needs assessment of where our learning gaps are and how are we going to use those dollars to bridge the gap of any COVID expenses. We do know that we have staffing, the ESSER 2, ESSER 1, and the CARES money only covered us till December 31st. I have additional staff I had to hire to keep the schools open from January to June. A good portion of that money will probably go toward that extra staffing. There'll be a little bit of extra money left, and we really have to look at summer learning in a very big way because there are significant learning gaps that we're going to have to remediate. So that third bucket of money is more like a grant that has to be approved by the state. So it's not like we got the bucket of money that we got the first two times and we could apply it to expenses. Now they are going to decide whether or not our needs assessment and our grant application meets the criteria that they've set to get those funds. So it's a little bit different this third time. And that's due to the state by April 1st. They're going to release the they just gave us the needs assessment today, and you could start implementing your application on March 1st. So certainly we have a lot of need in the district, and we're going to go after any kind of funding that we can. And, you know, I thank everybody, especially Bob, who has been, you know, keeping track of all of our COVID expenses along the way. As I told the state, and I've mentioned to you many times, when we said what were the expenses for COVID to reopen school, it was about $776,000. Well, we haven't received anywhere near that amount of money. And so luckily this last bucket of money is going to help us balance out the year, which is good news for the Board of Finance. I'd hate to run in deficit again 2 years in a row. So I think we'll come in with a balanced budget this year with all projections that we have currently, unless, you know, a special ed bus pulls up and we've got 10 kids we got to put out of district. So at this moment in time, things are looking good in that department. Some fun things to note. We finally start competitive sports on Monday. Our basketball teams are playing. It's very restricted with CIAC rules, but we are live streaming thanks to Jeff Bolte, who has secured outside donations to live stream our basketball games. And so if anyone's interested, they can go to nectsports.live through Clara Studios, and we'll be able to access live streaming basketball games. So we're pretty happy about that because spectators are not allowed to watch the games. This past yesterday, we had a wonderful professional development day. We had some mandatory training that we had to give to all of our employees on sexual harassment, but the remainder of the day was pretty exciting, where we had teachers teaching teachers who stepped up to facilitate professional development sessions. And then teachers logged on to those sessions and they had choice in some of the mini sessions that they attended. So it was a great day, lots of positive comments, and I'm excited over the fact that we have our own teachers being experts teaching other teachers, which is great. And we just finished a curriculum revision cycle that we reviewed with the Board of Ed. It's a 5-year revision cycle. All of our curricula needs to be aligned to the Portrait of a Graduate criteria that was set by the citizens in the town of Thompson. So we're going to start working on revision, but you can't do it all at once. And it's a 5-year plan to get all of the curricula revised in the district. And I think that's about it for tonight.
Thank you, Melinda. Questions for the superintendent?
I just have 2 questions. So Melinda, the deficit is at 0 right now with expenses, or expect it to be
I can't tell, yeah, I can't tell you that for sure, but it looks like we're holding steady.
Awesome.
So that we're not showing a deficit. Where's Bob? We're
That's
not
great.
showing a deficit at this moment in time.
And I did have another question, obviously, that has nothing to do with money, but I was just curious with all the, as big picture, not just picking on Turtle Lot or, Thompson Public Schools, but do you think that because of the on and off, distance learning and then in-house learning and back and forth, you had mentioned that you were going to look at a summer program or something like that. Do you think big picture that most students are going to be delayed as a result of that academically, to where the state might say that, we're just going to kind of adjust somehow? Or
So I'm going to say that the students that have remained engaged, and especially the distant learning students, those students who have remained engaged and are doing their assignments are doing well. The problem is that many of our students are not engaged 100% of the time. And so we have 200 students that we are working very hard. Each principal is working very hard to make sure they remain engaged with their classes if they're learning from home. The students that are on site, the in and out has a significant impact. And you can ask me or any other superintendent, and they will tell you, we are seeing tremendous learning gaps along the way. Remember, we were closed since last March until June. Luckily, Thompson Public Schools came in 5 days a week, and we managed 5 full days a week without interruption till December 7th. So we gave our kids a really good foundation. Because of the holiday spike in COVID, we've had a lot of in and outs. This week, it has been extremely cumbersome with my nursing staff, but we have not shut down a whole school. We've had to send home grade 7 because there's exposure there. There's a 4th grade cohort that there's some exposure. There's some exposure in a few students at the high school. And so the contact tracing and all the work that we have to do to keep our doors open has been significant. But yet we are still in a full time. The reopening committee never really believed in the hybrid where you bring half the students in for a couple of days and the other half in for a couple of days. We all felt that if it was safe for some students to be there, it was safe for all students to be there. I will say that the mitigation strategies that we currently have in place are working. We need to have conversation with our teachers next week, just reminding them with these the new variant strains that are coming in, that the best defense against COVID is following the mitigation strategies. Social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands frequently. Those kinds of things are going to keep us in school. Our biggest problem this year has been when teachers have been exposed and have had to quarantine, where we had to shut down Mary R. Fisher because I had 14 staff people out of that school that were exposed and had to quarantine for 2 weeks. So I think the vaccine, it looks like the meeting I was on yesterday with DPH, it looks like educators mid-March should be able to get the vaccine, which is going to help us out tremendously, because then that takes away that quarantine period if you're exposed to COVID-19. So I think there's a brighter horizon ahead. And I want some stability. The parents want some stability of having their children come to school. Today, we had to dismiss half day because of the weather. I'm still undecided about tomorrow, bringing students in or not. I'm, pausing on that, but I want to wait until the morning and make that decision. I will say that Rich from DPW is a godsend every time I have to call him when we have a weather delay. But the in and outs, you're right. Rhonda, the in and outs are having a significant impact on students and their ability to learn and concentrate. So
what about, I know this has nothing to do with finances, but I'm just curious, and you're the person that would know the answer. And I was just curious because it's not just our town, or it's everywhere. Are the kids, especially the lower grades, do they have any emotional issues or more anxiety and stuff due to the fact that, they're at the nurse's office, the masks are on, somebody's infected, yada, yada, yada? They seem to be handling that.
Remarkably, the students have done, and honestly, the faculty and staff have been, when they're on site, they're great. The high school kids are probably the most anxious. They want to be in school every day. And so this back and forth, disrupts their just whole social environment. But the students that come in are happy to be in school, and families are happy that school is open. I can imagine parents are frustrated at this point. The in and out hasn't been great. Try to remind them that we were pretty stable for a good portion of the school year, and it's just this funny time that we're in that it's in and out. Luckily, we're trying to make sure that we just isolate those students that have to be quarantined or those faculty that have to be quarantined, and we can still keep the school open. That's why the extra staff that we have in place is vital to keeping those doors open. But yeah, I don't know at the end of the day, what type of learning gaps we're going to have, but we see math being significantly impacted.
Thank you. Appreciate that extra input.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
I got a quick question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Melinda, as far as the buses go, what percentages of the buses are being utilized on a daily basis?
All of them. So they're all being used. If a school is closed down, what happened was when we had to go remote, we used the buses to deliver meals to the kids at home for families that couldn't come out. So we were delivering about 100 meals a day. The governor's order got extended so that we have to negotiate with the bus company regarding transportation. So we haven't really had a significant gap in service, but we've had those times. So one of the things we did was we started to deliver the lunches to the families who needed them delivered, because a lot of parents don't either have a car during the day or their middle and high schoolers are home alone because they're at work with the car. So we were delivering about 100 lunches a day, and we were using many of those buses. And Amy and I are working on a project which DADCO is providing a bus for free in case the elderly need a ride to get their, Thompson residents, of course, need a ride to get their immunization for COVID. So we have the bus company on standby, and when Amy calls us and says she has citizens that need a ride, we're going to be able to provide that. So it's a good service that we're able to utilize some of that flexibility that we have this year because they weren't 100% every single day transporting the same kids. So I'm taking advantage of that bus time, especially for meal delivery. But now the town's going to benefit because we'll be able to help our seniors.
Thank you for the update.
Any other questions for the superintendent? All right, thank you, Melinda. We'll move on to financial report, Finance Director Orla McKiernan Raftery.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, a couple of things. We'll start with the financial report. It's through the end of January. So at the end of January, we've collected 15.45 million in property taxes. So we're a little bit lower in current taxes, but we're higher on prior year taxes and interest and liens. This is our first month for collections for motor vehicle supplement, and has been reported to you in the past. It's substantially lower than we're anticipating and what we had budgeted. So we've collected 87. That's 84 lower than we were this time last year. On the state and federal grants, we got the next round of the ECS cost sharing grant, and also we received the first third of the Pequot Indian grant for the month of January. Local revenue is 883 or 258 higher. I think I've reported to you in prior. This does include the 250,000 that was appropriated for Turtle Lock Trust. So if you take that out, we're pretty close to where we were, but on the specific line items, the bottom line is quite similar, but town clerk permits, conveyance, building fees, and transfer station continue to be higher than last year. On the expenses, we've committed 5.89 million, and in relation to the income and expenses, Rob Warch had asked me to break out the expenses between COVID and non-COVID expenses. On the first page, you see we have received there's regular income, which is your standard, and there's also COVID income. So COVID income is what we've received in this current fiscal year. This includes 3 different pots of money. Rhonda mentioned that 16,000 that we received. That was reimbursement for last fiscal year's expenses. In addition to that, there's $82,000 that was received. I call it the 24-hour money because literally we received it and we were told we had 24 hours to spend it. But the good news is that was extended. So we're spending it wisely and we're spending it slowly, but we do have it earmarked. Amy and I have earmarked these funds for some well-needed projects related to COVID. That's it on the income. Now on the expenses side of things also, I broke down the COVID expenses. Just bear with me. Got lots of papers in my hand. Okay, we have $32,000 worth of expenses so far this year, COVID related. So I think I've shared with you in the past, it's generally 2 different pots of money. The school has a little bit, their scenario is a little bit different, but on the town side, we're pretty much FEMA and CARES. So it looks like we've no longer any access to additional CARES money, but we have continuous access to FEMA. So as expenses come up that I would recognize as FEMA eligible, and it's tough to become FEMA eligible. They tend to reject more than they actually pay out. And they also only pay out 75%, but we'll continue to submit claims to FEMA on a quarterly basis until they tell us we can't do it anymore. I know it's been extended through the end of March, but that might be it. So we'll continue to do what we can. That's it on the expenses side of things. Not a lot of changes to the other. We've no changes to surplus just in relation to where we were this time before. We are at the surplus percentage is 6.97, but that's before audit. So that might change once we're all said and done with that. And the balance sheet, of course, got too many papers. Hang on one second. Okay. So on the balance sheet, we have more cash. We have $3.7 million worth of cash more than we had this time last month, and that's because January is a collection month. Although we have extended, the governor has extended the deadline for interest. So we will lose out on quite a substantial amount of interest income because of that this year. But that's just to give you an idea where we are at the end of January. And in relation to this time last year, we're $196,000 higher. Audit. So yes, actually budgets. Yeah, as Amy said, we're knee deep in the round of budget meetings with the Board of Selectmen. So final, as Amy said, we've got a final review next week, and then Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen will be presenting to you guys on the first Thursday in March. On the audit side of things, so we have completed everything we can with the audit. They are determined to file next week, so am I. So those last little pieces are just hanging out there. They're waiting for letters back from attorneys, and we've been reaching out via email today, making sure they get that information back to them, and a couple of questions for the actuarial companies, but fingers crossed it files by next Friday. So so that's pretty much all I have. I can't think of anything else. In relation to the document that was shared last month, which was the transfer station, I did go through it with you guys last month, and we're still, Rich and myself and Rich's secretary Kelly, we're still continuing to niggle pick through the numbers, trying to determine as to, do we have the permit rates higher? Should we be charging more for bulky waste? Kelly is doing an initial analysis of the income that came in just at the transfer station on a weekly basis for the months of January and February. So I'll be able to provide that information to you. I won't even wait till the next meeting. As soon as we have that data, I'll get it to you guys. But also I got some additional information today from Rainey's office, from Lynn, who handles all of the transfer stations at the tax office. So she gave me some historical data too, just more about, the breakdown of Regular versus senior, they're continuing to see an increase in the senior permits, so that brings in less revenue, but we're accommodating our seniors. That's just the first thing that jumped out of me, but yeah, that's about it. Any questions?
I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
First up, thank you for the work on the bulky waste. And I don't think we need at least speaking for myself, we don't need a tremendous amount of data. It's really just to provide, some guidance for Amy and the selectmen in town to make a determination on whether we're adequately charging for that. And
Absolutely.
particularly in a season. So I know a lot of energy has been put into that, but until we have the data, they'll struggle with finding the right answer there. As it relates, and you may have said this, I didn't hear you for a few minutes on my end, but as it relates to the COVID funding, the 93,000 versus the 30,000 spent, is there any risk of that having to go back if it's not fully spent? And a follow-on question on that is, if so, can part of that be used to help Melinda and the school system with the large expense that they have relative to COVID?
So so the first 2 rounds of money were reimbursable. So that's a done. The 82,000 that we received in December, we have 12 months to spend it. So,
Get there.
there's a lot of determinations with regards to how best to spend it. It's pretty general. The parameters that the state have provided me are pretty general with regards to who can get it. It's town owned, but the function is COVID related. So, for example, yes, you could offer it to the school, you could offer it to your police department, you could offer it to your fire departments, you could offer it to your public health department too, if you wish. We're part of a district, so that would be a little bit more complicated, but there's lots of different options available. At the moment, Amy and I are looking at how best, there's a lot of things that were considered during this whole process that would definitely enable us at the town, COVID related, that seemed impossible. So that's where we are with that process. And maybe we can give you more of an update next month.
Okay, super. And then my last question, and it's more of a request, is as we kind of wind down toward the end of the year now, we're into month 7 and moving to kind of the close of the year. In the next few meetings, and I know we have budget workshops and there's a lot of things that are going to happen, but if you could just keep an eye on where certain departments or line items are starting to run out of money, highlighting those early, I think will give the board an opportunity to ask the right questions around what alternatives we have before we get into trouble in those particular areas.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the finance director? All right, thank you. We'll move on to Turtle Up Fund update, Board of Trustees. Oral, I know that in the past you've kind of spoken on behalf of the Turtle Up Fund. Anything to report there this month?
I've got a couple of the trust members here in front of me, which is wonderful. We did have our public hearing on the 1st of February. So we're still at the stage where we're talking about the next stage of Windows. Phase 2 will start. Phase 3 we're hoping will start. And I can't remember. There's a big discussion with regards to 65 Main. Okay, trust members, help me out here. I can't remember specifics of that meeting.
I will, if you
Go
will.
ahead.
Joe, are you, if you will, I can speak to phase 3 of the window project.
Okay, great.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Kathleen. Thank you.
Okay, if I may be recognized. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
Kath-
absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. Go ahead.
All right, I am the new secretary for the Turtle Lot Trust. So phase 3 of the window project, we will come to you to request $270,000 for phase 3 of the window project for the 2022 budget. We did vote on that also, and the Board of Ed voted on that and approved that monies to be appropriated from the trust. We also discussed a wish list, if you will, for upcoming projects from the trust. not to happen, but that needs to be done to the 1909 building. These will be future projects after the window project is done. One of them is a wheelchair lift for the Rascavage Auditorium to make it handicapped accessible. They want recreating the doors for the Rascavage Auditorium. And the masonry on the 1909 building needs repointing. And this project, I was advised, could easily run into 6 figures. Bill Birch is going to be working on some budgetary numbers for these projects to present during the budget process, so we can keep in mind where, for future, what these costs will be. Orla, correct me if I'm wrong, but as of 12/31, the trust itself stood at 2.865 million.
That sounds right. I don't have any data in front of me.
Well, I have the Crestwood report, so I wrote it down, and we had some other balances. We do have the phase 2 of the window budget has been allocated. And we would allocate from the trust fund phase 3 for the year ended 2022. And we would be able to complete phase 2 and phase 3 beginning. Phase 2 windows will be delivered in March, by the end of March, and that work can begin. And also phase 3 could be completed by the end of by the end of the fall in this year, according to Bill Birch. That's all I have.
Thank you, Catherine.
If I could add to that, Aaron, also as a member of the Turtle Lot Trust Board,
Sure.
and representing the Board of Finance. Thank you, Kathleen.
Mhm.
With phase 2 project well underway, and then the approval of the 270,000 that Kathleen mentioned for the phase 3, that still puts us with approving that and spending that, it still keeps us well above the minimum threshold that that the fund has to maintain as part of the bylaws of the fund, or part of the regulations that we're under. So there's no risk there of pushing below that. And then lastly, at the last meeting, there was also a presentation on the 65 Main Street building that was also gifted to the town from the Turtle Lot family. What happens with that, what's done in the future, there'll be several meetings coming up, but perhaps in March or April, to discuss that a little further. So there's no real concrete things to report there, other than it's a topic that we're addressing as a group and working on. That's all.
Thanks, Rob. Any questions about the Turtle Lot Fund update? All right, we'll move on to new business. I don't believe there is any new business, at least not that anyone had requested. And hearing no thoughts on new business, we'll move on to old business. I know, Rob, you had sent out an email talking about the transfer station income and expenses. I know that was discussed in broad terms during the finance director's update. If you wanted to discuss that in greater detail, we can do that.
Not necessary. I think we've covered it, Aaron. Thank you.
Okay. Fair enough. Then any other old business? Any other old business?
Aaron, can I make a comment? It's really, I guess it is old business. It's in relation to the calendar for the Board of Finance budget meetings that will be coming up starting in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So a lot of department heads have approached me and said, will they know when their budget is being reviewed on the town side? It's a question I get every year. So
Right.
I didn't know whether the board members and yourself were interested in putting together even some sort of semi-schedule, so we can give an idea to department heads as to when, so they can ensure they can be there when they need to be there should questions arise. I know it's early days. I just want, it's more of a put a thought in everybody's mind, and I'm sure that the discussion can come up because we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks. But
Any thoughts on that, folks?
This is Steve. I agree. It'd be nice to help the department heads know when their department might be scheduled. But we have to sort of play a fine line here in the sense that we don't want to have to end our meeting early because we didn't schedule somebody, or if we ask them to come in on a certain day and we're running late, we don't get to them. So if there's some flexibility on both sides, I think maybe we could help them out a little bit. I mean, I think it'd be a good idea to help them out if we could anyway.
Rhonda's hand was up, and then Rob will come to you. Go ahead, Rhonda.
A couple years back, we did something similar where we just kind of estimated where we would be at the next meeting so people could know to show up. So that was something that we did do, and it did work. I thought it worked pretty good. You know, sometimes we would continue on if we moved forward and some, you know, groups wouldn't be there, but in most cases it kind of was pretty scheduled pretty well.
Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to recommend something similar where we maybe can just line up the sequence of departments. And then at the end of each meeting, we could say, you know, 'cause we have the best intentions of going through as many as we can, but we could just say at the end of, you know, a particular meeting where we stopped here and we're halfway through this, and then pick up from there. And at least it'll give some folks a little bit of insight as to what's in the next meeting, or, you know, it doesn't totally answer the question, but it gives them directionally where we are.
that sounds reasonable.
I know in the past, when we approach these budget workshops, we just kind of take it from the top. You know, we take the book that Orla prints off, and it starts off with revenue, and then it goes, I think the first item is either Board of Finance or First Selectman's office, and it just goes down from there. And I completely understand, you know, if I was a department head and I felt like my department was probably going to come up in the next meeting, but it's still, you know, a few departments away from where the last meeting left off. And if I sit through that whole meeting and my department comes up, I kind of wonder, geez, you know, other than just hearing about what's going on in other departments, was it really a good use of my time because I sat here and I wasn't even called upon? But to Steve's point, then the problem is what happens if we have a night where we just kind of move through things quick? And so I'm always reluctant to write it down because what I don't want to do is say something that we shouldn't have said. And so that's why I realized that, kind of like what Rob just said, we're not really directly answering the question, are we? But probably the best advice, the best guidance we can give is when we finish a meeting, we'll say, all right, we finished off with this department and your department is 3 departments away from that. We'll probably hit it at the next meeting. Please attend the next meeting.
I think it has to be an estimate. That's the best you can do.
Right. You never know. You just never know when you're going to hit a department. And for some reason, the conversation ends up spending like 45 minutes plus on
And
that.
if-
You just never know.
I just wanted to say too, and if it is important for those people to be there and they know that, okay, you know, last meeting we got through 5 departments, we might get through 5 again and theirs is 6. You know, they may want to attend that one just in case theirs does come up and vice versa. So, you know, they might have to go to 2 meetings to get, you know, if it works out that way. So, I mean, that's what I would do if I was one of them.
Go ahead, Steve.
In the past, I think the board has jumped around from one department to another as opposed to going in any sort of order at all. So at least in a couple of years, it's just been no sequence whatsoever, other than somebody wants to talk about this department and someone else wants to talk about another department, and all good questions and one way to approach it, but it doesn't give the department heads any idea of when they might even possibly be coming up for review. So maybe we should try to stick to a sequential approach, which we have definitely not done, I know, at least in some of the past years.
Yeah, and so to Steve's point, perhaps we should just kind of collectively agree that when we begin, obviously the first budget meeting of the season is really just a hearing. There's no real business discussed. It's the following Thursday, so it's the second Thursday of March is when we really get down to business. So perhaps we just agree that we'll take it from the top. You know, we'll take it from the revenue side and then move into the first departments that occur sequentially in the booklet, and then just go through from there. So at least that way, department heads can keep track. Those who weren't there that evening, they can keep track of where we finished off. And then they can kind of do the math in their own mind and say, all right, either I think I'm not going to come up at this coming weekend or this coming week, or I think I am. But at least they know, at least they can see, they can map us. They can see the progress that we're making sort of on a map, if you will.
Okay.
The other issue is that sometimes very legitimately, we have a discussion that then refers back to a department perhaps we discussed much earlier. And I don't think we want to preclude ourselves from being able to do that should the need arise. Sometimes some department relates to activity in another one, or we want to go back and, tighten up the budget a little bit or be able to do something differently. So as much as I want to help accommodate the department heads, I don't know if we should really guarantee that, they might not get, brought up a second time or something.
And you're right on that one too. Even if we would agree to sequentially go through the book, once we get to the end of the book, that's when we go back and we go into this one, or we go into that one, or go into the other one. We really don't know, because it could be only one member of the board who says, I really want to revisit this. I really want to rediscuss this. And so you wouldn't, that's impossible to map. So going through the book the first time, that's fair. But once we get to the end of the book, we can't possibly give precise direction in terms of what's gonna happen next.
Rob Mann, absolutely, because we know towards the end, when we get to our last 2 or 3 meetings, that we try to prioritize things, and we always have to go back and make adjustments. And we never know what department that is. We kind of move back and, try to trim things up the best we can.
Just in relation to the last meeting, I think there was a comment about the last meeting. So currently, before, so one of the proposals at the town meeting is to implement an ordinance that reduces the 30-day window, this big window that we've been in discussion with over the last few months, down to 21. If that doesn't pass, the last Thursday you will have is April 15th. If it does pass, then you have the 22nd. So if it passes, you've got 7 nights after the initial presentation. If it does not pass, you've only got 6.
Okay. 6 nights after the presentation, or 6 nights, so it's not 6 nights including the presentation, it's 6 nights after.
Correct.
Great.
Assuming we only do Thursdays.
Yeah,
right.
assuming
Good point.
Thursdays.
Good point. Any other old business? So we'll move on to any Board of Finance member comments. Any Board of Finance member comments? Go ahead, Steve.
Just a sort of a general comment. As I was trying to sign on to the meeting today, I usually go to the town website and go to the agenda, and there's a link typically on the agenda that's on the town website. This time it wasn't there, so I'm not sure if the lack of other participants in our meeting is because the link wasn't there. But I'd like to make sure that in the future, we make sure that the link is on the agenda. The agenda that Dottie sent to us, or at least to me anyway, had the website link, but the agenda that was on the town website lacked that link. So again, I think it'd be helpful if it was on that town website.
Good point. Thank you, Steve. Any other Board of Finance member comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Rob.
Aaron. I just want to alert the board that I plan to send out an email prior to the start of the budget workshop. And it's really just a look at last year and the impact of the changes that were made to the mill rate. I got an updated file from Paul, the assessor, and I did a little data crunching. And I just want to share with folks, I think I had mentioned that, when you're looking at averages, there's folks, there's homeowners above and below the average. And I think you may find it interesting what the data has to say. I'm not prepared to get into it now, but in the next week or so, I'll send that out. And I just asked folks to take a look at it and think about it as we prepare for this year. What was the real impact across the population and the impact to the folks in town?
Thanks, Rob. That's helpful. Any other Board of Finance member comments? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Rob's got the motion. Is there a second?
Rob Mann, I'll second.
Rob Mann has the second. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone oppose? Anyone abstain? This carries 6-0, and this meeting is now adjourned. It's 7:56 PM.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone, have a great night.